Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. I'm Paul Clark, welcome to my studio, and today we're going to have a look at painting this little dwelling, which means we're going south of the border, down Mexico way. The good thing is I can paint better than I can sing. Let's get going, shall we? Okay, here's today's materials. My paper is some Arches Rough 300 pound. My brushes are my number 3 rigger, a large mop, a 3/4 inch flat, and my trusty number 12 round. My paints, my normal 3 primaries, Cobalt blue, Alizarin crimson, and Cadmium yellow. I'm also using some Cadmium orange, some Payne's grey, Cerulean blue, and Burnt Umber. There's quite a lot of drawing work to do, so for those of you who would like a drawing template, you can now download one from my website. The link is at the top of the homepage, and the web address is below and in the description below. Off we go. I'm starting with my large mop and totally wetting all the paper. Now, with my flat brush, in with some vertical stripes of Cadmium orange and Cerulean blue. I'm not worried if it bleeds over any of the pencil lines. Just go for it. Now I dry out my brush and lift out the colour in the shutters and door. This is to make sure that when I paint them blue later, they have a nice white background. Next, with my number 12 round, I splatter in some water droplets to create some interesting mottled effects. Now let this dry. So now it's a perfect time for a short break, and as it's 5 o'clock somewhere, a quick shot of tequila. My flat brush again, which is perfect for painting along straight edges. I'm painting in some burnt umber on some of the shadow sides. Make sure it's nice and watery and transparent to see the colours behind coming through. Next, with some transparent washes of Cerulean blue. And then onto the roof and a few details with my Cadmium orange. Oops, and here's a little area I missed with my Burnt Umber. Now a transparent wash of Cobalt blue. Now the roof is dry, I'm going back in with my burnt umber for some shadows. Next, a much darker mix of burnt umber by mixing in a little bit of cobalt blue for some darker details. Always try and keep your brush strokes moving freely. Try and achieve as much as you can with a few brush strokes as possible. It always looks more natural. So much is about confidence. Don't worry about making mistakes. If it turns out a right mess, it doesn't matter. All you've lost is a piece of paper, but you've learned something along the way. Now back in with a little cadmium orange detail. Lift out the highlights with a dry brush. Now I've darkened my cadmium orange with a little alizarin crimson to suggest the tiles, but don't add every ridge in. Less is always more. Now straight in with some cobalt blue for the doors and shutters. Blue is a complementary colour of orange, so they always look great together. Now with some more burnt umber, I'm layering in the washes to give a little more shadow. For the green here, I've made a 50-50 mix of cadmium yellow and cobalt blue. And then added a little bit of burnt umber into the mix to give a darker value for the shadow side. And now back to my darker mix for some further details. Now, I've just decided I'm going to add in a sleeping dog here. So while he's drying, I'll continue with some more dark details. A little grey tone here to suggest some stones. And then again I'm lifting out the highlights with a dry brush. Now I'm using some Payne's Grey for some final definition. Same colour again, I'm starting with my number 12 on the tree. And then with my number 3 rigger, I'm painting in the spindly branches. Mask off the top, and as always I can't resist a bit of splattering. You can also dab out any dark areas with a tissue that you feel are just a bit too prominent. For these splats I'm laying my brush flat and flicking back the hairs to create this directional texture. Now with my rigger and the dark tone again, I'm putting in a few fine details. What's really important is you don't try and outline everything, leave lots of gaps. And I'm using the paint fairly dry so I get a nice broken line effect. Okay, let's add in a few cables and wires. I always think it adds a bit of interest and helps to draw the eye into the centre. And finally, it's magic scalpel time to scratch out a few white highlights. But be careful, I don't want anyone cutting themselves. I think we're finished. I'm fairly pleased with that. The only thing which doesn't quite look right is the dog. The poor little fella looks like he's been run over. Anyway, we're done. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Before we go, I would just like to say a real heartfelt thanks to all of those who've left comments and liked my videos. It really is appreciated. So, Especially for you, I'm going to play a little piece of music which I wrote specially for this tutorial. So, here we go.